welcome into the Michigan Football Report. Happy holidays, Michigan Football Nation. I am James Yoder, face of Michigan football media, and maybe the face of college football media at this point, because we are live at the Cotton Bowl Media Center for the college football semifinal Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern. Not one of these little journalists that are down in Atlanta. I'm with the big boys here at Media Day, but we're bringing you a Michigan Football Report live, starting with a preview today of the Michigan versus Florida matchup. I'm going to start off with our keys to the game, my keys to the game for a Michigan victory, with 4 players not playing in the bowl game, 4 starters opting to not sit out. What does Michigan have to do to get their 5th victory over Florida to keep a perfect record versus the Gators? Let's take a look at key to the game number 1. Show up. And what do I mean by show up? Number 1, show up as a team like you want to win the game. Remember last year's bowl game, even maybe from 2 years bowl game against Florida State, where Michigan looked like crap in the first half. Last year, didn't play up to anybody's expectations in the second half. Gave up a 19-3 lead late in the third quarter to South Carolina. Blew that game. Didn't show up with the early parts of many games in the first quarter this year. And show up as a team to replace these 4 players that we're going to show here that are opting not to play in the Peach Bowl, a New Year's 6 game. Certainly not a lower tier game. This is the big boys this one Michigan is playing in against the 10th ranked Florida Gators. Rashawn Gary announced 2 days after the Ohio State game. Maybe his head wasn't in it versus the Buckeyes, given that he was already had a video and a company all queued up by the time Monday came around after the Ohio State loss. Devin Bush just last week confirmed our report. He was not playing, will enter the NFL draft. Karan Higdon, another captain like Bush, senior captain of the offense, surprising, will not play in the game after having 2 very solid, maybe spectacular years as Michigan's starting running back. And then the one that just broke this week, confirmed, Jawan Bushell-Beatty will not play. He's Michigan's starting right tackle for the first 10 games of the year. Did not play in the last couple. Andrew Stuber replaced him. But nevertheless, 4 starters out for this game. 2 on offense, 2 on defense. Want to ask you guys watching on Facebook Live, YouTube, and the James T. Yoder Twitter account live, are you okay with Michigan football players skipping the bowl game? And I ask that for a couple reasons. Number 1 is that if you're not going to play in a game like this, when does it change? Is it next year? Let's say Michigan's already got 2 losses next year going to the Ohio State game. Do players start skipping the Ohio State game because it becomes meaningless because you can't win a championship if they've already got a couple losses? Or does it come down to a couple years from now, maybe Michigan's in the playoff and a Dylan McCaffrey decides to skip a playoff game like his brother? Not saying that's going to happen by any means, but certainly something to consider. So I want to know from you guys. Answer below in the comments. Want to see the general consensus now that we are in the eve leading up to this game. Are you okay with players skipping bowl games? You see the matchup there. Michigan, Florida, the Wolverines still a 6-point favorite. It has come down 1.5 points in the last couple days. Started off as a 7-point favorite, 7.5. That held for about 2.5 weeks. In the last week, it has come down 1.5 points. A lot of people calling for Florida to have the outright victory. Over-under is 51 on that one. Let's keep it rolling to my second key to the game for Michigan against Florida. Establish the power running game. And I only put this one in there, and I got teased a little bit before the show about my number 2 and then the number 3 coming up kind of being conflicting, and you'll see that here in a few minutes. But what I mean about establish the power running game more or less is to replace the production in some regards of the man coming up right here, Karan Higdon, Michigan's starting running back. Some people project him to be a 3rd or 4th round draft pick, which I think he'll end up in. He's not injury related at all. He will play in a Senior Bowl, but not going to be playing in this bowl game. Going to start prepping for the draft. You got to replace 1,200 yards on the ground in only 10 or 11 games he played this year. Sat out 1 with injury, but he was pretty much guaranteed for 100 to 125 yards every single game. Average, almost 110 per game. And what this is going to do is give Michigan fans a little glimpse, maybe without Zach Charbonnet, of what the offensive backfield will look like next year. Chris Evans, the true junior, will get the start, but will True Wilson, the former walk-on, will Christian Turner, the true freshman who has been reportedly turning some heads, get the snaps? Will they get the ability to be Michigan's leading rusher in this game? And I want to ask you guys this question, get some consensus out there, because it seems like although Evans is the guy with the most carries, and certainly he's got a couple 150-yard games under his belt, some people think that maybe True Wilson will be the breakout guy here. Maybe it is the freshman. So answer below, who will lead Michigan in rushing yards Saturday morning, I guess, Central Time, noon Eastern in Atlanta for the Peach Bowl. Michigan versus Florida. Comment below. We'll see what the consensus is on this one. Let's take a look at what Michigan's done against these Florida Gators. 4-0, and Ron English, Michigan's former defensive coordinator, the safeties coach at Florida now, had a pretty interesting soundbite he said he's using to motivate his team. He said, "You could be the first Florida football team in history, 100 some odd years they've been playing football, to ever beat Michigan. You know, you could do something Tim Tebow never did." And so that's got to be pretty motivating for this team. Kind of interesting how Michigan has dominated this team. And if Jim Harbaugh wins it, he'll have more wins than against Florida in his 4 years than he's had against Michigan State. Certainly more than Ohio State. Certainly more than Notre Dame with 0 against either of those teams. And it'll be about half the Big Ten that Jim Harbaugh has more wins against Florida than he does against Big Ten schools, or at least as many wins. So interesting to see how often these two teams have played, which is why there's quite a bit of apathy around this game in general. So those are the results. 4 straight wins. We all know the last 2 have been kind of blowouts. Last year, Florida got out to a lead in the first half with Wilton Speight throwing 2 pick sixes, and then Michigan blew them out in the second half of that bowl game 3 years ago. An absolute beatdown. Let's take a look at number 3 on my keys to the game. Air it out 35 times, and I think that's a key to the game with Karan Higdon not playing, but I also think it foreshadows a little bit to next year and what Michigan fans should be looking for out of an offense that returns 3 receivers that all could be the number 1 wide receiver on almost any team in the Big Ten next year. And if they're going to air it out, they're going to have to throw a lot more for Shea Patterson. It's going to be a lot more passes than he did in any game this year. Take a look at his 2018 stats. Pass for 65%. 2,400 yards, 65% completion, 2,400 yards, 21 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. What's most notable to me that we don't put on here is how many passes he attempted. Only about 290, which is significantly less. 200 less for the year. So, gosh, 15 passes a game, less than Dwayne Haskins. And if you look at all the other top 10, top 15 programs with Heisman level, all conference level quarterbacks, all those quarterbacks out through Shea Patterson as far as pass attempts by 10 or so a game this entire year. So Michigan needs to start prepping for a more pass-friendly offense next year. Air it out 35 times. Show the world what Peoples-Jones, Collins, Tariq Black making a comeback, and a former 5-star number 1 quarterback in the country. Everything Michigan always wants out of a recruit, Shea Patterson can do through the air. They got to put it through the air. Give Shea Patterson the confidence to go against this Florida secondary, coached by, at least partly coached by Ron English, that Michigan can light it up against an SEC school. With this Florida game in mind, with Michigan being number 7, playing the Gators for the 5th time in the last 16 seasons, I want you guys to predict the score for me. Go ahead, predict in comments now. Chat Sports YouTube, Michigan Wolverines by Chat Sports on Facebook Live and live on my Twitter account. Predict the score below in comments, and then DM me. We had 0 people predict the score correctly. Got thousands of people to DM me their correct score predictions. 0 people got it correctly. If you do, I'm giving you $25 right from my pocket to yours. James Yoder hooking you up with a little New Year's special. If you can be the first one to DM me with the correct score before the kickoff, of course, got to tell me who wins it at James T. Yoder on Twitter. And there could only be one winner. Next key to victory, number 4 on my 5 keys to victory for the Wolverines. You've got to pressure quarterback Felipe Franks. And why do you have to pressure Felipe Franks? Is because if you all remember 2010, the Dan Mullen-led Mississippi State that blew out Rich Rod's team in his final game, and if you saw what Ohio State did to Michigan a few weeks back, Dan Mullins is basically Urban Meyer's little brother in the coaching community. He was the OC at Florida. He basically tries to run the same exact program as Urban Meyer. Hasn't had the big job to do it yet, but now he's at Florida. Felipe Franks certainly can throw the ball pretty well. He was a Elite 11 quarterback. He was a top prospect coming out of high school. As a third-year player, Franks is going to run a system against Michigan trying to exploit the same thing that Indiana and then Ohio State really exploited, which is the short passing game, which is the get the ball to players in space, let them do things, and then pick on guys like Brandon Watson and some others in the secondary with their 3rd, 4th, and 5th wide receiver. And if they do so, you might see stats like this. We all remember Michigan in Dallas, where I'm at right now with the big time media. All the national guys are here in Dallas. None of the small timers like in Atlanta. But here in Dallas last year, September 1st, Michigan, Florida at Jerry World. 5 of 9, Felipe Franks in his first start as a college quarterback. No touchdowns, no interceptions, only 75 yards passing, and was pulled for former Notre Dame quarterback Malik Zaire, who had transferred there as a backup quarterback in the second half to try and give Florida a chance to come back against Michigan, which of course they did not. Michigan dominating that second half of that game. So can Michigan beat Florida for the third time in 4 years? Here is the betting action. You know I'm a big gambling guy on college football. You know I've had an awesome year. If you follow me on Twitter, you've made a lot of money with BetDSI. Michigan's a 6-point favorite, down 1.5 since last week. It popped up to 7.5. I think certainly the number of players from Michigan that are not playing in this game have a big impact on that, but not as big of as you think. Losing 4 starters, including 2 All-American level players in Higdon and Bush, and then a potential first-round draft pick in Rashawn Gary. You'd think it moved down to 1 or 2, but it has not significantly moved. Leads me to believe that people are putting some decent money on the Wolverines. The over/under in this game is 51. It has basically stayed the same, fluctuated by a point, but it kind of seems pretty consistent that the sports books like BetDSI think Michigan's going to win this one. 31-24 or somewhere in that range, 28-24, 28-21 to be in that range. I think it's a close game. No team will score a ton of points if the sportsbooks know what they're talking about. And one that for sure knows what they're talking about is our sponsor, BetDSI, and we have continued to hook you guys up, and the promotion is extending. Just shipped out a bunch of these jerseys to you, so thank you who have participated now. If you get going with BetDSI for Michigan's bowl game or beyond, we're going to extend it for a few more days through the first of the year. Chatsports.com/bet. Promo code GUBLU. You can DM me on Twitter. Tell me what you've done with BetDSI. I'll ask you for a few pieces of information, and we will ship you a maize jersey number 1, a blue jersey number 4, the Nico Collins Jim Harbaugh special, or this awesome long sleeve Michigan block and maize and blue baseball style tee. All the Jordan brand ones. Chatsports.com/bet. Promo code GOBLUE. You get the jersey and you get a 120% deposit bonus. So imagine you put in $50, you get a free $60 in your account, plus you get the jersey or the shirt. Can't miss deal. Let's take a look at number 5 on my keys to the game for Michigan versus Florida. It is the stop the quick passes and crosses. So alluded to this in the last one, and these two kind of go hand in hand together. I kind of, if you think the 2 and 3 go hand to hand, got to establish the run to then be able to air it out. This one does too. You pressure Felipe Franks, and that doesn't allow him to wait and go deep, but then it will force Florida to pass the ball faster, to have quick slants and crossing patterns. And if Michigan doesn't stop him, Felipe Franks could have a game similar to what this man did, not probably nearly as jaw-dropping of numbers, but Dwayne Haskins had a day against Michigan, 6 touchdowns, the most the Michigan Wolverines have ever given up in a game from one quarterback, a 235 rating, his second highest rating of the entire season, 65% completion, and 400 yards. He absolutely tore up Michigan, and if Michigan doesn't figure out how to stop those short passes, those intermediate crossing routes that have really hurt Michigan the entire Don Brown era. Remember the Penn State game last year, Indiana this year, certainly Ohio State. If Michigan doesn't come up with a solution for that, pressure Franks and get the guys up close to stop those routes, it could be a long day for the Michigan defense that's coming off their worst performance in, half a decade or more at least. So that is the 5 keys to victory for the Michigan Wolverines from myself, James Yoder, the king of Michigan football media. All right, let's get into my 5 young Michigan football players, my 5 up-and-comers that potentially could break out in this Peach Bowl game Saturday, 12 noon from Atlanta, Michigan versus Florida. I've identified 5 guys I think I can get some snaps, some serious snaps in this game, and if they perform maybe at a high level, you could be looking at a player who is a starter or better, a starter or potentially even a star in the 2019 season. And number 1 on the list is the man, Christian Turner, the true freshman from Georgia. Grew up outside of Atlanta. He is number 3 on our depth chart right now as a true freshman. His dad, Ulysses Turner, former NFL player for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Ron Higgins is not playing. Chris Evans is not a guy who has shown throughout his Michigan career that he can carry the ball 20 or 25 times. So unless Michigan's going to go to an air raid attack, True Wilson and Christian Turner are going to get carries. And I think that Wilson is a serviceable back, great blocker, can get some passes out of the backfield, 6 to 10 carries a game. But I don't think either Evans or or True Wilson are the kind of guys that can lead Michigan with 1,000 or 1,200 yard rushing season in the future. So Christian Turner could be a guy who gets 10 to 15 carries in this game. We'll see what happens with that, but he hasn't had a chance to really show it on the field this year. Early word out of practice the last week, 2 weeks, is that he is performing at a high level. A lot of people expect him to be a big part of the Michigan offense on Saturday against Florida. How about our second player of the game, a man who is no stranger to the starting lineup this season, is linebacker Josh Rosh, a true sophomore. He will definitely be a starter in every game next year, but kind of rotated in and out. Got starter snaps, so certainly didn't start every single game, as Michigan would put out different lineups, different formations depending on the opponent. But he will be Michigan's leading linebacker in the terms of talent and importance in the 2019 season. Some could say Khaleke Hudson. I'm not sure if I really consider him a linebacker as much as a safety that plays down, although some people would consider Hudson a linebacker, but as we saw with Jabril Peppers in the same position, doesn't translate well to the pro. So Josh Rosh, with Devin Bush being out, will be the focal point of this game from the linebacking core, and I think he's the guy that needs to have the big plays that Devin Bush would normally get. The plays in the backfield, the plays to stop a short pass on 3rd and 7, just break up a guy. He's going to have to bring the lumber, and if he is going to be a leader of this team, maybe a captain as a junior next year, like Devin Bush was this year. Today or Saturday against Florida is the way he is going to do it, is when he's going to start making his mark as a future All-Big Ten player, maybe All-American player. But Josh Ross, true sophomore, expect big things out of him against Florida, and certainly looking forward to next year. He is a name to know to be a star of this Michigan football team in 2019 and 2020. You can bet this game. Michigan 6-point favorite, down from 7.5. So if you think Michigan's going to win this game by a touchdown, you are looking good. If you put some money on the game with BetDSI, you will be hooked up with a 120% deposit bonus. You can bet in the game. You can bet in the money line, Florida or Michigan. Just no spread involved if you want to get involved with that. Or put money on the over-under, and if you go on there right before game time, you can even see what players are supposed to get what yards, passing, rushing, all that stuff. Put some money on that. And if you do, DM me on Twitter at James T. Yoder when you use chatsports.com/bet, promo code GOBLUE. Sign up and deposit. You got to deposit, so don't DM me saying you created an account. That doesn't matter. This is real life, folks. We will send you a free Michigan football jersey number 4, or the maize number 1, or the Block M Michigan football baseball jersey. Chatsports.com/bet, promo code GOBLUE. Sign up and deposit today. At James T. Yoder on Twitter is where you have got to DM me. Let's take a look at our next players to watch. How about Cam McGrone, Michigan's top-rated recruit in the 2017 class? He redshirted this year, but because of the redshirt rule where you can play up to 4 games, you will see him on the field potentially in a starting role. There's some misinformation out there whether it's going to be him or redshirt freshman Jordan Anthony getting the start in Devin Bush's place. So Cam McGrone, I think, is primed for a starting role in 2019 if he performs up to par in this game against Florida. Let's take a look at what Michigan's linebacking core looks like without Devin Bush. Khaleke Hudson had that Viper role, but the two linebackers, Devin Gill, Josh Rosh, who we just talked about, maybe backed up by Jordan Anthony. You got Josh Shea and Noah Furbush out there on the outside. But take a look at Cam McGrone. Can he take some snaps away from Ross? Can he get in there at weak side linebacker at Devin Gill? I think you're going to see a lot of Cam McGrone in this one, and I think if he performs up to stuff, him and Ross can be a formidable 1-2 combo at the linebacking core next year. Predict the score, folks. $25 in your pocket if you're the first one to DM me the correct score. Michigan versus Florida, Saturday, noon Eastern in Atlanta. It's the Peach Bowl. It's a New Year's Six Bowl, but it's being played on December 29th, the lead into the college football playoff, where we are at right now live from the Cotton Bowl Media Center in downtown Dallas, Texas. Predict the score, Michigan, Florida. DM me on Twitter to be entered, and somebody gets it right first time of this year, you get $25 in your pocket. From me to you, happy holidays from the Michigan Football Report. Let's take a look at number 4 player to watch against the Gators on Saturday afternoon. It is freshman Vincent Gray with David Long and with David Long and Lavert Hill playing in this game. Gray is going to be less of an impact player than I thought he would be when it looked like Long and Hill were going to play a few weeks ago. But he is another player that's going to get snaps in this game because Michigan may depend on him heavily next year, depending on what Long and Hill do with their NFL futures. But Vincent Gray, high-level recruit coming in, didn't get a ton of playing time, didn't get a chance to make an impact in the 2018 season. But with this redshirt rule, He can play up to 4 games. I expect him to get quite a few snaps. Could even replace, a fifth-year wide cornerback from Michigan that got burned against Ohio State. I'm not going to put his name out there at the moment, but Vincent Gray, keep an eye out for him in this one. Could get some snaps. You see his jersey out there in the field. You're like, who's that? You know it's Vincent Gray. Are you going to this game, folks? Are you going to this game? I brought the Michigan Football Report on the road and put some pictures out from Media Day here in Dallas on my Twitter account right now, so you can check those out. But are you going to this game? Because Michigan only sold 60% of their bowl allotment, and I don't know anybody who is excited to go to chilly Atlanta, 40 degrees, to watch a game that we've seen 5 times in the last 15 years and 3 of the last 4 years, including this one, Michigan, Florida. So let me know in the comments below. Watching on Michigan Football Report YouTube, Michigan Wolverines by Chat Sports on Facebook Live, and live on my Twitter account at James T. Yoder. Let's take a look at our number 5 impact potential breakout player for this Peach Bowl game. It is Aidan Hutchinson, friend of the program, friend of the show, interviewed with us in the past. We like Aidan Hutchinson, showed out very well in replacement for Shea Gary and in some backup playing time throughout the 2018 season as a true freshman. Some people are saying he's going to get a start. Some people are saying he's not. I think what's going to happen here, because Chase Winovich is playing, but playing injured, is you may not see Hutchinson start, but as we see the defensive line depth chart without Rashawn Gary, who for sure will not play in this game, I'm putting him there as a starter because I have not seen Josh Uche or Kwity Paye get every down snaps enough where I think they are going to be keeping Hutchinson off the field. So I think if we look at the participation chart after this game, you're going to see Hutchinson get the most snaps maybe of any defensive end on this Michigan team, because with Chase Winovich being hurt, folks, I think there's a chance he plays in a handful of snaps, isn't performing well, and potentially Chase Winovich does not play a ton of snaps because he is injured, has said that he will need surgery shortly after the Michigan Football Bowl game to get prepared for the 2019 NFL Draft. So Hutchinson, Carlo Kemp, Michael Dwumfor, Chase Winovich, not a ton of depth right now, folks. You see Mozzie Smith and some others are going to definitely have the chance to be in the 2 deep for next season with this Michigan football depth chart. So that is the defensive line for Michigan in this game. Let's take a look at my breakout players once again. Christian Turner, running back. He's 3rd in the depth chart now without Crown Hayden, but I expect him to get at least a few carries, if he performs well, up to potentially 10-plus carries in this game. Josh Ross, starting linebacker, he's going to have a chance to take the reins of this defense now that Devin Bush, Rashawn Gary will not be playing. Cam McGrone, could he break into the starting lineup next year? Could he actually be the guy who replaces Devin Bush? We'll see what happens in this one, but Ross, McGrone, and Khaleke Hudson, potentially your linebacker / Viper. That could be a formidable trio next season. They'll have to fight off Jordan Anthony to get into that lineup. Vincent Gray could have been a starter, maybe. Had Long and Hill not played. They will play, but I expect to see a bit of Vincent Gray on the field on Saturday against Florida. And then Aidan Hutchinson, I expect him to get starter-level snaps, no Rashawn Gary, and limited playing time, I believe we'll see from Chase Winovich. So that is my 5 breakout players for the game. Michigan, Florida tomorrow, and I want you guys to win some money from the Michigan Football Report right to your pocket. Correctly predict the score. Put it below in the comments. Then DM me on Twitter. The Twitter account is right there. Don't DM some other account. Don't Facebook message me. Don't Instagram me, because I catch up on those 2 weeks later and it's too late. You got to do it on Twitter to win the $25. Comment below as well to see how your picks compare to the rest of the viewers of the #1 most watched Michigan football show on planet Earth and Mars too. We're expanding. It's big time. And that is that. We are presented today by BetDSI. If you know the score to this Michigan football game, if you know what Michigan's going to do, they're going to win, they're going to lose, they're going to score 40 plus like they did a couple years ago against Florida, put some money on BetDSI, chatsports.com/bet, promo code GOBLUE. You get the 50% or 120% deposit bonus and a jersey or a Michigan long sleeve maize and blue Block M shirt. All you got to do to redeem that is to DM me on Twitter at James T. Yoder. Michigan, Florida, Saturday, noon from Atlanta. It's the Peach Bowl. Go Blue.